Tiana, so if you were going to give advice, like if somebody, because I do know a lot of people that it's like competing in some sort of like figure or bikini or something is a goal for people, just kind of as kind of like you were saying, like just like a one-time thing, just for funsies. I think a lot of people are like, can I do it? Like, can I buckle in? Can I do this thing? So if you could give advice for someone that was like, hey, I want to do a show, would you suggest they work with a coach? How do they go about finding a good coach? Because I feel like it's super common to see these companies that are just like, hey, eat 1,000 calories a day and put on this bikini, when it's like, it's like you've actually been able to diet on a lot of food. It's like, especially your surpluses, you'll post about like, hey, I'm eating 3,000 plus calories. So it's like,
yes.
how would somebody go about, like finding the right people to work with, and just kind of what advice would you give them?
I mean, I think the people I follow are like 3DMJ, Revive Stronger, like I follow like a lot of the coaches in like the natural bodybuilding space. So I think I don't know anything about like the enhanced things, but I just know that they're over there, and that a lot of people end up taking drugs and they don't know anything about what they're taking. So I literally can't say anything about that stuff. I know nothing about it. I just know that I think probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give to someone when they're looking for a coach is like making sure that the coach is like educated and willing to help them in the post-show period. Because that is like, honestly, I mean, prep is like, if you're interested in bodybuilding, if you're interested in doing a bodybuilding show, you're probably a little bit type A. You probably like a little bit more like rigid, like you probably like some rigid guidelines. Like you kind of like that stuff. So honestly, like, yes, prep is difficult. You're fucking hungry, you're tired, you're irritable, whatever. But it's easy. You follow the meal, like you hit the calories, you do the steps, you do the training, everything trends in a very pretty direction. You're looking leaner, you look great. You're like, this is cool. And then the post show is like very much less entertaining. People are not interested in it. So it's just like, hey, you did this thing everyone thought was like super awesome. You got all this like social validation and whatever. Enjoy slapping 10 pounds of body fat back on your frame and people being like, what happened? Are you okay? Yeah. Like, I literally had, this person didn't say this directly to me, but they asked someone I knew, like, if I was pregnant because of the way that I had gained body weight back. And again, it's like, I think that's something else that like prep has given me, is that like, it's made me super confident in how I manipulate my body weight. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, because at first when I heard that, I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, it doesn't matter. If that person thinks I look pregnant, that person thinks I look pregnant. Like, I was really confident in how I had managed that post-show period. And yes, it resulted in me gaining some body fat back. My body looked different. Like, if you're going to play in the physique sport pool, you better have a few different sizes of clothes on standby.
I mean, I love what you said earlier about
different sizes of stuff.
Yeah, what you said earlier about like you wear different, like it's like wearing a suit,
yes,
like a costume, yeah, like an outfit. Yeah.
So I mean, I think in terms of like finding a coach, like, ask about how they'll help you manage the post-show stuff. I also think that, again, it's like, I think I've heard like Alberto Nunez talk about this a lot. Like, start working with a coach like way before you think you need to. Like, you probably shouldn't start working with a coach when you want to prep. Like, you should probably work with a coach when you start your off season. And then you do an off season together. Maybe you even do, they call it like a prep positioning cut. Like, cause most people like don't just do like one diet to get on stage. Like, most people do like a prep positioning or like a pre-cut, whatever you want to call it, like diet to get like, in the proximity of where they need to be to start their prep. And then maybe you hang out there for a little bit or whatever, and then you prep. But it's like this whole like 12 to 16 week time frame of like, ooh, I'm going to hire a coach and do a show. Like that's a like surefire way to, I feel like, put yourself in a dumpster fire and pay for it. You're going to pay, jump in a dumpster fire.
I feel like that's almost the equivalent, right? Of like, sometimes we see that where somebody will be like, hey, I have a wedding in 2 months and I'd like to hire a coach to diet. And you're like,
oh Lord.
No, like, where was this thought like 6-8 months ago, right? So I think kind of same thing. It's like, I love that you brought that up there where it's like, hey, maybe if you're even starting to spin the wheels on like, I think I'd like to compete and I'm like serious about it, that's when to hire a coach, not like, oh, right. I'm trying to DIY this. And
well, and it's like, I mean, here's the thing too. It's like, if you like, when I was prepping, like people thought I was like I looked sick. Like you have to understand that like the look on stage is like, it's not what you look like when you're walking around. Like, Alex saw me, like I didn't look like healthy.
I mean, you look unhealthy, but you definitely were very small. Like, yeah. And
it's weird when you see it like in person. Yeah. It's like, it's not what you see on stage.
And like, I think you were right before the day before, right? So like you had been like kind of drying out a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, I guess that's maybe something to consider too, is like, you don't like the look on stage is not what you look like when you're like walking around.
Yeah. Like you get like, cause like the tanning and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
So gross.
Got to bend over and they spray that all over in there. Like make sure you get all in the cracks.
It's like cattle in there. Like you're just naked with like fans and tanning spray. And like, it's like very unsexy.